in this lesson, I want to introduce you to interactive Ruby, or IRB for short. What interactive Ruby is a temporary playground within our terminal where we can play around with or experiment with Ruby code. So whenever we installed Ruby on our operating systems, that installer automatically installed IRB, or interactive Ruby. So if we open up a terminal, much like I've done here in VS Code, we can execute the command IRB, that is short for interactive Ruby, and press enter, and that will launch this command line program. It runs entirely within our terminal. So this is a temporary scratch pad for Ruby code. So this is not where you want to write code that you want to keep, right? Rather, this is just for experimentation and validation, right? If you just quickly want to experiment with something, see how Ruby processes a given bit of code, this is a great place to do it. As soon as you close this program, all your work in here is going to disappear. So if you want to save your work, you do need to create a separate .rb Ruby file and write your code in there. This is once again a quick place just for experimentation. This is an example of what is called a REPL, R-E-P-L, and that is short for Read, Evaluate, Print Loop. And it basically describes the functionality of this software. The program reads your code, it evaluates your code, it prints the results of your code, and then the process repeats. So that's what we call a loop. A loop is just a continuous thing that goes on and on. So we read, evaluate, print, loop, and that is why it's called a REPL. So as a very basic example here, we can ask Ruby to do something very simple like a mathematical operation. Let's say addition. So in Ruby, you can use the plus sign to add two numbers together, just like in basic math. So as one example, I can write the number 1, then a space, then a plus, then another space, and the number 1, in case I cannot figure out what 1 plus 1 is, and I want Ruby to help me. And when I press the enter key, you'll notice we're going to have the value 2 output right here. And this is a valid bit of Ruby code. It's obviously a very simple, contrived example, but any kind of Ruby code that we write throughout the course, you should be able to write in here as well. So you'll notice the expression, and you'll notice the output directly below right here. To the left of this little cursor, you're going to see the order of evaluation. So this was the very first thing that we ran, the very first command. So you'll see 001 right here. The next one will be 002, the next one will be 003, etc. As another example for what we know so far about Ruby, we can use the puts method right here. You'll notice as I type, it's also going to give us some helpful documentation for what's available. So if I'm looking for puts and I want to do the same thing like hello world, we can write it in here and see the result output right here. You'll notice for every single evaluation, we're going to have this little symbol right here that looks almost like a rocket, and that's going to tell you the final evaluation of that line. And that is a little bit of a complex idea because you'll notice a difference between this 2 right here and this value of nil, which we are currently unfamiliar with. But essentially the simple way to describe this is 1 plus 1 produces a final evaluation, a final result, and that is basically what we're seeing here. The act of outputting text to the screen does not actually technically produce anything to give back. It's just a manual operation to do something, and that's what that nil represents. It's kind of saying, I have nothing to give back to you. I am going to print the text hello world, but I'm not going to give you anything back as a result of that operation. We'll talk more about these technical concepts a little bit later in the course. The important thing to note, though, is you should see the direct evaluation of your expression either in the output right here or in this little rocket syntax, and that will tell you what is the final evaluation or result of whatever you just wrote. And so once again, we experiment here, and whenever we're done, when we exit, all of our work is lost. If you want to exit, you can write the command exit right here. I believe quit will also work, Q-U-I-T. Press enter, and that will take you back to the terminal. Once again, nothing is preserved, so this is just a temporary playground for playing around with Ruby. All right, and it should be installed on any computer that has Ruby installed. So for example, if you don't have access to a text editor and you just want to play around, you can just run IRB within your terminal and have this quick little playground to play around with. All right, that's all there is to cover in this lesson, so I will see you in the next one.